It's all right now. We're safe in here.
But for how long?
The wind had teeth that night. It bit through the dry air, sweeping across the endless sprawl of grass and dust, whistling against the crooked fences that marked the farthest edge of Cole Harding's ranch. The last light of day was sinking into bruised clouds, leaving streaks of gold and violet that clung desperately to the horizon before the world fell dark. Cole pulled his coat tighter and pushed open the barn door, its hinges groaning in protest. The storm hadn't broken yet, but the smell of rain was heavy, that electric scent that made the horses restless and the cattle uneasy. He had been working since dawn, fixing a broken water line and rounding up strays, and his back screamed for rest. But then he saw it, a faint movement near the far stalls, a shadow that didn't belong. At first, he thought it was one of the dogs. Then a soft cough cut through the stillness. "Human. Who's there?" His voice came out rough, like boots scraping gravel. No answer. Just a shuffle, and then silence. Cole grabbed the lantern hanging from the post, struck a match, and lifted it high. The flame flickered weakly, throwing long, trembling shadows across the hay-strewn floor. And then he saw her, crouched near the back wall, wrapped in an old, torn blanket. Her hair was plastered to her face, soaked from the rain that must have caught her out on the plains. Mud streaked her cheeks. Her lips were trembling. "Hey," he barked, taking a step closer. "You lost, miss." The woman flinched as if his words had hit her. Her eyes darted to the door, to the light, to him, all at once. "Please," she whispered, voice barely there. "Don't come closer." Cole froze. Something in her tone. Not defiance, not guilt, but fear. The kind of fear that came from more than being caught trespassing. He lowered the lantern slightly. "You're on private land. Ain't safe out here at night. Coyotes roam these parts. Or worse. I had nowhere else to go," she said, clutching the blanket tighter. Her hands shook, and for a brief moment, the edge of the cloth slipped, revealing the faint shimmer of something metallic beneath. Then she yanked it back, eyes wide with panic. Cole narrowed his gaze. "What's under there?" She shook her head violently. "Please, don't take the cloth off." He took another step, boots crunching against the straw. "Ma'am, if you've got something dangerous, I need to know. I'm begging you." Her voice broke. "Don't." The storm outside gave a low rumble, like the world itself was warning him to stop. But Cole Harding was not a man easily spooked. He had spent 20 years working this land, burying his father on it, surviving droughts and wildfires and men who'd tried to steal from him. He didn't tolerate trespassers, and he sure didn't tolerate secrets. Still, something about her, the tremor in her voice, the way she pressed her back to the wall like a cornered animal, made him pause. "What's your name?" he asked softly. She hesitated. "Emma." "Emma what?" "Just Emma." Cole exhaled slowly. "All right, just Emma. You mind telling me why you're hiding in my barn, soaking wet and scared out of your skin?" She didn't answer right away. Her eyes glistened in the lantern light. "Because it was the only place with a roof. I thought no one would find me before morning." "Well, you were wrong about that," he muttered. "You hungry?" She blinked, surprised by the question. "Aye." He didn't wait for her answer. He turned, walked to the workbench near the door, and came back with an old canteen and a loaf of bread wrapped in cloth. He held them out cautiously. She didn't move. "It's just food," he said. "Ain't poison." After a long silence, Emma reached out, hands trembling as she took the bread. Her nails were chipped, fingers pale from the cold. She ate slowly, as if unsure she was allowed to. Cole watched her for a moment, then set the lantern on a crate. "You're hurt." She shook her head. "Got family nearby?" "No." "Anybody chasing you?" Her silence was answer enough. Cole rubbed his jaw, studying her. "Look, I don't want trouble. You can stay the night if you need, but come morning, you tell me what this is about." "Deal." Emma nodded faintly, but her eyes darted again to the barn door. She seemed to be listening. Not to him, but to something else. A distant echo only she could hear. Then lightning flashed through the open slats of the barn, followed by a sharp crack of thunder that made the horses whinny. She flinched so hard the bread fell from her hands. "You all right?" Cole asked, stepping closer. That's when he noticed it, the strange way she kept one arm hidden under the blanket. He saw movement again beneath the fabric, small, almost imperceptible. "Like something alive, Emma," he said slowly. "What are you carrying?" She looked up sharply, tears welling in her eyes. "Please," she said again, her voice breaking completely. "Don't take the cloth off." The desperation in her tone stopped him cold. He wanted to demand answers, to know what kind of secret had wandered into his barn, but he couldn't shake the feeling that whatever she was hiding wasn't meant to hurt him. It was meant to protect something. Outside, the rain finally broke, hammering against the roof in wild rhythm. The smell of wet earth filled the barn. Cole sighed and stepped back, wiping his face with one hand. "All right," he said quietly. "You win for now." Her shoulders sagged with relief. He leaned against a post, watching her from across the barn as she huddled beneath the blanket. Every now and then, she'd whisper something soft under her breath, words he couldn't make out, and the faintest sound would answer, muffled beneath the fabric. Cole frowned. There it was again, that tiny sound. A soft, trembling breath. For the first time that night, his heart skipped. Whatever she was hiding under that cloth wasn't an object. It was breathing. Cole's pulse thudded in his ears as he stared at the trembling woman. Rain drummed on the roof, the rhythm fast and furious, like the heartbeat of the night itself. The lantern flame fluttered, casting wild shadows that danced across the walls. Emma still crouched there, clutching the blanket as if her life depended on it. "Emma," he said again, lower this time, gentler. "Tell me what's under there." Her lip quivered. "Please, Cole, you don't understand." He took a step forward, slow and cautious, hands raised like a man approaching a frightened animal. "Then help me understand." She backed against the wall, shaking her head. "If you see, you'll send us away. I can't let that happen." "Us." The word hit him like a stone. "Who's us?" She swallowed hard, eyes glistening. The wind howled through the cracks, blowing dust and cold air into the barn. The horses stamped nervously, sensing the tension that thickened the air. "Emma," he said softly, but with the firmness of a man used to being obeyed, "I'm not asking again. Whatever you've got there, I need to see it." When she didn't move, he reached out, slow but steady, and caught the edge of the blanket. "Don't," she cried, voice breaking into a sob. "Please, don't take the cloth off." But he did. The fabric slipped from her hands like falling leaves. The lantern light fell over what she had hidden, and Cole's entire body froze. His breath stopped, his hands began to tremble. For a moment, there was no sound, no thunder, no rain, just silence thick as grief. There, lying in the hay, was a child. No more than 5, maybe 6 years old. A little boy, pale as paper, hair tangled and wet, his tiny chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. His clothes were torn, his skin bruised in places where the dirt clung stubbornly. Cole knelt slowly, his legs weak. "Dear Lord," he whispered. He's alive," Emma said, her voice fierce through tears. But barely. Cole's throat tightened. He reached out, hesitant, touching the boy's forehead. It burned hot with fever. The skin was slick with sweat despite the cold. What happened to him? Emma pressed her hand to her mouth, as if holding back a sob. "They came last night. Riders. I don't know who they were. Men from town, maybe from the hills. They were after us. Said I'd taken something that wasn't mine." Cole looked up sharply. "Did you?" She shook her head. "Only him." Her voice broke again. "He's not mine. I found him 2 days ago near the river. Alone. Hungry. I couldn't just leave him there. He kept crying for his father. I thought I could get him to safety, but then, they saw me with him. They thought I'd stolen him." Cole's jaw clenched. He had seen his share of cruel things in his years, men who'd turn a blind eye to suffering just to keep their own boots clean. But the way Emma spoke, the way she held that child like something sacred, it stirred something deep inside him. The boy stirred weakly, mumbling something in his sleep. Emma rushed to him, cradling his head in her lap. Shish, baby, you're safe. You're safe now. Cole stood up, running a hand through his wet hair. You should have gone to the sheriff. I tried, she said, looking up sharply. They wouldn't listen. Said a drifter like me had no right to speak. He cursed under his breath, pacing a few steps. This town's full of fools, that's for sure. The rain outside turned to a downpour, hammering the roof like 1,000 nails. The lantern flickered again, threatening to die. Cole turned back to her. We need to get him warm. He won't make it through the night like this. I can't go back out there, Emma said, clutching the child tighter. They'll find us. You won't have to, he replied. There's a room above the barn. Used to keep tools there in winter. It's dry and close to the stove chimney, warm enough for him. Emma blinked, disbelief flickering across her face. You'd let us stay. He hesitated. Just for a moment. This wasn't like him. He didn't take strangers in. Not since the fire 5 years ago, when he lost everything he trusted. But as he looked at that frail child and the woman shaking beside him, he felt something shift. Yeah, he said finally. For tonight. She nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. He scooped the boy carefully into his arms. The child's weight was nothing, his body limp as if carved from smoke. Cole's hands shook as he carried him up the narrow steps to the loft. He laid him on a pile of old blankets and covered him with another. Emma followed, clutching the edges of her torn shawl. She knelt beside the boy, whispering soft words that Cole couldn't quite hear, lullabies, maybe. Promises. Cole fetched a kettle, poured water into a tin mug, and handed it to her. He needs something warm. Thank you, she whispered, her eyes wide with exhaustion and gratitude. They sat in silence for a long time, the storm howling outside. The boy's breathing steadied bit by bit, his fever cooling as the night dragged on. Cole leaned against the wall, watching them, the stranger and the child. He thought of his wife, Mary, gone these 7 years. Of the baby they'd lost before she passed. He hadn't spoken of it since, hadn't let anyone close enough to remind him what love or loss felt like. But now, watching Emma stroke the child's hair, something inside him cracked open. You said his names. I don't know, she said softly. He never told me, just keeps whispering. Papa. Cole swallowed the ache in his throat. Maybe he'll wake by morning. She nodded, looking down at the boy. If he does, I'll take him far away. Somewhere no one will find us. Cole stared out the small window, rain streaking the glass like tears. You won't get far on foot. Not with men after you. Then what do you suggest? He hesitated. You stay. Till he's strong. I'll keep watch. No one's crossing my fence without me knowing. Emma's eyes widened in shock, then softened. Why are you helping us? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he looked at the child again. Because once, I didn't. And I've lived with that ever since. A long silence followed, broken only by the crackle of distant thunder. Emma finally smiled, faint and tired. Thank you, Cole. He nodded, tipping his hat low. Don't thank me yet. As the night deepened, he sat by the window, rifle across his knees, watching the plains for movement. The rain eased into a mist. Down below, the horses quieted, and the wind softened its angry voice. Behind him, Emma hummed softly to the sleeping child, her voice fragile but warm. Cole closed his eyes for a moment. For the first time in years, the ranch didn't feel empty. And when the first light of dawn spilled across the fields, he realized something he hadn't felt in a long time: hope.